This guy's got a skanky look. He looks like he cooks meth and sleeps in his car.
That's a hurtful thing to say. And I've never cooked meth. Hello there, I've been invited to go on Fox News and I'm thinking about whether or not I should go on Fox News. So I'm going to look at when I was invited to go on there before and what happened and what people on Fox say about me sometimes, and then we can make a decision together about what's best to do. You'll note now that I'm by the logs. All we ever talk about is these logs anyway. I finally decided to embrace them, accepting that they're the real draw for these videos. Let's have a look at my relationship with Fox in the past and see if I should be on Fox in the future. Here we are at Fox's headquarters. All the greats are here. Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, all of the people that refused to have us on the show. Sean Hannity, who booked us and then cancelled us, so we're going to do a true special from here in the heart of the establishment. Firstly, I was a provocative little geezer, wasn't I? Like, Hannity invited me to go on his show, then rescinded the offer, so I just turned up at Fox's headquarters, all aggro, trying to look at me now, adorable little guy sat by some logs, no trouble at all. Should I go back on it again? Will this lead to the rescinding of it? Why am I even considering it? I suppose the main reason I'm considering it is now when I watch things on Fox, they seem to be talking about things I care about, breaking up big tech.
Today, Amazon, Google, and Facebook, also Apple, aren't just richer and more powerful than the old monopolies or any companies that have ever existed throughout human history.
Ending monopolies.
There's nothing free about this market. A lot of these companies operate as monopolies.
Corruption in government and the relationship between government and big business.
They use government regulation to crush competition.
So I don't know if Fox was always like that, because I seem to remember that my relationship with Fox in the past was antagonistic. I thought, oh, well, this is an arm of Rupert Murdoch and therefore the corporate media, that it's a default right wing. What's changed in the world? Because I still basically believe the things that I've always believed: fairness, sharing, kindness, caring. Don't believe in government intervention and believe that people should be able to run and organise their own lives based on principles that are natural and, gosh, perhaps even inherent to them. Let's see how I used to be, though. 80% of American people believe... oh, here comes some security. 80% of Americans believe... Yes, sir.
You can't film here.
I like that. Tried to carry on doing the 80% of American people riff, whatever that was, after security had clearly turned up. What a plucky guy.
This is private property.
This bit here?
Yes.
Whose property is it?
The building.
Who's the building belong to?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, it does matter.
It doesn't matter.
I'll just say it then.
You want to get arrested?
No, from True
tried
News,
to tell
the
them they
truth.
couldn't film on the premises.
Yeah, he's doing his job and doing a good job at that.
Okay.
Who does this property belong to?
Belongs to the building.
You can't stay on the property and film anything.
Who are you here with? I'm with True News, Russell Brown, True News. Tell Sean Hannity I dropped by to chat to him. Hasn't the world changed? I mean, I recognise that I've changed, I've got children now, I'm a lot calmer now. I'd be a lot less likely to go and just turn up at Fox News like that. That's why it's interesting to be invited on there again. But I suppose, you know, I'm a sensitive person. I don't want to go on Fox News and be ridiculed. What kind of treatment can I anticipate based on the kind of treatment I've previously received?
Welcome back to Hannity. All right, yesterday, Russell Brand, a D-list actor, better known for his failed marriage to Katy Perry.
This guy's got a skanky look. He looks like he cooks meth and sleeps in his car.
That's a hurtful thing to say. And I've never cooked meth or actually slept in my car. I've gone unconscious in it. Not as a result of meth use, just, you know, it's difficult to raise kids.
There's a reason why his ex-wife, Katy Perry, dumped this skank.
I tell you one thing that has changed is populism. Since Fox News was at its giddy heyday pre-Tucker, when it was all about Bill O'Reilly, it was more of a traditional right-wing conservatism that's necessarily altered after the advent of Trump and the sort of people that engineered or at least organised what you might refer to as the Trump revolutionary moment. People like Steve Bannon. Like, you can listen to people that are from the what you would have to refer to as the right of the spectrum talk for a long while, and because of the advent of renewed populism, they, for ages, like someone like me with the kind of political kind of, I don't know, traditions that I've been interested in, has no truck with them. They're talking about breaking up monopolies. They're talking about the lack of representation in government.
There is one person in Washington who is offended by this arrangement. Bernie Sanders is trying to get your money back from Jeff Bezos. Bernie is right.
So the political landscape has shifted, and I think that's what's interesting behind this, is that you now get someone like Glenn Greenwald, the guy who broke the story about Edward Snowden, regularly featured on Fox News, talking about lack of clarity and transparency in the Biden administration and the way that the Democrat Party has abandoned ordinary working voters. And a comparable thing happened in this country around Brexit. And I suppose what really happened from the 90s onwards in particular is the left centre parties abandoned their indigenous or native constituency. I don't mean native as in a geographical sense, I mean in a political sense, ordinary working people of all colours, in favour of kind of cultural ideas that cut adrift ordinary working people, leaving Fox News, Trump, Brexit, etc. in a prime position to pick up those now abandoned voters. There's no reason at all why issues like populism or even Brexit or COVID and how COVID should be handled necessarily need to be libertarian right-wing issues. They could be tackled and understood from the left. It's possible that new forms of political alliance will start to form all over the place. I mean, I'd be sceptical about whether or not Fox would be part of that, simply because Fox is a corporate media organisation owned by Rupert Murdoch. That don't make it inferior to MSNBC or CNN or any of those other organisations. Ultimately, it's just a different accent to the same kind of imperatives. CNN and Fox News have more in common, I would argue, with one another than they do ordinary folk out on the streets. So anyway, let's listen to a little bit more chagrin and abuse from these people at Fox and drill down into whether or not you can see me actually being there and whether or not it'd be a comfortable experience for me, bearing in mind my personality.
Yesterday I mentioned Scruff Bucket Russell Brand.
Greg Gutfeld is the actual person who's invited me. He's just called me a scruff bucket. Now, back in them days, an incredible amount of effort went into my appearance. I mean, I was wearing eyeliner and stuff. That ain't regular attire for the average scruff bucket.
A lot of women find him very attractive. That's what we were talking about during the commercial break. But I just,
he hasn't bathed in 2 years, Kimberly.
Yeah, I need to hose him
His
off.
lice has scabies.
Oh!
Bloody hell. That was a real attack there. The lice have scabies. I mean, I must say I felt a bit of a flush when they said a lot of women find him attractive. I felt sort of like the echo of the life I used to live resounding in me now. But even that was only used to leverage how they found me personally repellent. Nonetheless, it has made me feel that going on Fox News is more plausible somehow.
10 years ago, I love this guy. I used to host a show called Big Brother's Big Mouth in England.
It's astonishing that Greg Gutfeld, an American TV news host, was aware of Big Brother's Big Mouth in early 2000s Britain, a show where it was a reality TV show, and I hosted one of the spin-offs. It's very curious to hear Greg Gutfeld aware of that. I used to watch Ponderland from time to time. That was a great show. I love his log store.
Hilarious guy. But then something happened, and I think it's the Arrested Development. He developed fake intelligence that you often see in a freshman at college, where you think you have all the answers, and it's like you just discovered it, and it's so exciting and new, and everybody's going, "You're almost 40, dude."
Yeah, that's why they call them sophomores, because in Greek it means wise fool.
Don't use ancient Greece to attack a fella. I think what they were saying is like a little bit of wisdom is a dangerous thing, or the zeal of the newly converted. But actually all that happened is I'd been famous for a little while, and I think I was getting bored of the narcissistic rush that first accompanies fame, and was experimenting with what happens if I start saying stuff that I've thought about for ages. For me, there's footage available. You can see me on marches when I'm 16, 17, 18 years old. I was a sort of a person that cared about that kind of stuff. I don't know why. There's loads of reasons, and I bang on about that stuff all the time. But certainly it wasn't that I newly encountered information. It was just that I was newly speaking about it. And the slur of sophomore, I refute the charge of wise fool, while simultaneously accepting it. How's that for a paradox?
I only knew he was like a drug addict, sex addict, loser.
He's a very funny, talented guy.
I'm getting confused now, because within a breath, he's a drug addict, sex addict, loser. He's a very funny guy. I like him. He's nice, but he's covered in lice. He's like, my God, Greg, will you marry me? I couldn't know how to handle this.
But ideology has twisted his brain.
Not as strong.
And now, and again, it's something that will change with age. I think he's got to read more.
Russell Brand is a very talented guy.
Fox News are gaslighting me there, aren't they? He's an idiot. He's disgusting. He's a scuzzbucket. He's a very clever, funny guy. What? Of course, in a way, I've changed a great deal since then. I've become, in many ways, entirely different. But I think what's more important and more significant and more exciting is that Fox News has changed. I wonder if the changes at Fox News in terms of editorial, covering subjects like breaking up the media, the problems of big tech, the relationships between big tech, Wall Street, financial industry and the government, the revolving door between the White House and Wall Street, and the way that it's covered on Fox cynically, skeptically now.
Jeff Bezos isn't paying his workers enough to eat. The Waltons could certainly afford to be generous with their workers because you're paying the welfare benefits for Uber's impoverished drivers. Child billionaires like Travis get to keep buying bigger houses and more airplanes.
I wonder if that suggests a genuine evolution, a genuine ambition to inform people and change society for the better, to create a fairer, more just society, more representative of ordinary people's needs and values, or if Fox is just now doing what is popular and what's required of them. And in fact, if I might offer, stuff that I've always been talking about. That's, you know, you can go back and look at them videos of the truths I was doing 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I've been saying the same things. Centralisation doesn't work, whether it's either at the state level or the corporate level. What's required is real democracy and decentralisation, a kind of new localism, respect for ecology, respect for diverse value systems right across the social spectrum, all forms of cultural expression. And it seems to me that, in a way, it's Fox that's changed more than I've changed, at least in terms of their content, if not in terms of their intent.
He's a talented guy, but he turned angry at some point. At some point, he flipped. Some switch flipped in his mind.
You're not qualified to offer this kind of analysis of old Russ. It's a switch. In the mind, there's a mind switch, a flipper switch, and that's been flipped by something. I don't know what, but it's been flipped now, and it turned him into a guy that's critical of Fox News and questioning the power of big tech and government and duplicity in high places. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on in there. Why are they all saying this stuff? And what would happen if I go in there again? And what if they watch this video? Oh, no. Will they watch this video and not like it? I'm not going on a show where I'm called a sophomore scuzz bucket that's really, really funny but covered in lice. It's going to unsettle me.
And he became angry. He's angry at Fox. He's angry at capitalism. He's angry at America.
He got sober.
Right. Well, I don't know what
He
it
did.
is.
He got sober.
Don't take the old sobriety. And also, by the way, that's nearly 20 years. I've always been sober and in recovery, certainly from drugs and alcohol anyway, the whole time that I've been in the public eye. So that's not the seismic shift that's occurred.
But now he's sober, and he's still a jerk.
I'm not going on that program.
I get it. He's an intellectual, or he prides himself on being. Greg, you have a kind of bizarre man crush on him, if you'd like to talk.
I lived in London. I found it highly entertaining.
He took his glasses off. Look, I'll level with you. I found it highly entertaining. It's not like he's personally aggrieved, but he's come back round, hasn't he? Because it's Greg Gutfield's show that I've been invited on. So he's gone, I like this guy. What? No, he's criticising capitalism. I don't like that. No, I don't like it. Hang on. No, he's good. Glasses are going back on. He's coming on the show. It's really interesting. Although now, after this, it's a roller coaster ride between me and this guy.
But he's afflicted by what's called student-itis.
I don't think so. I don't think that's an actual condition.
He has the intellectual capacity of a student, not in a good way. He's not capable of learning.
You can't say I'm not capable of learning. I can speak and move and all sorts of stuff. I've got a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. There's been all sorts of changes.
But he is capable of sitting in a coffee shop and pontificating without thinking about it, because to him, it's only words. He's a 17-year-old who comes home from college for Christmas.
That's too... What? How specific? He's a college student. He's come home for Christmas. There's a guy on the trains doing the same journey as him, but then the train breaks down, and they have to get an automobile. And then what? They've tried to get a plane now. It's John Candy, and they're in bed. They wake up. They're embracing each other. Hold on, is this Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Yes, that's right. He's in that.
He's a complete and utter hypocrite, and he used to be so funny, and now he's just an ass.
He's taken it too personally. That's what's happened there. He's took that too personally. He used to be so funny, and I loved him. And we used to spend time together. And I remember we wandered in a meadow, and he used to thread things through my hair, a daisy chain, I think he called it. But anyway, then it was covered in lice, and it's just a scuzz bucket and an ass. Oh, is that him? Oh, he's on the phone. Hello, I love you. I hate you. Ah!
Russell Brand begging for a socialist egalitarian system, one where there's a massive redistribution of wealth and corporations are taxed massively.
That's good ideas. That's like the sort of stuff that you're seeing regularly now on here.
A lot of big corporations, they have no use for you or the country you grew up in. If you can think of a less fair system than this, send us an email. We'd love to hear about it. This system is indefensible.
The monopolies ought to be broken up, that you can't have always as the absolute priority the economic advancement of an elite. Otherwise, you'll create inequality, disparity, ecological meltdown, social breakdown, leading to extremism. I think I was, in a sense, ahead of my time.
When you get into greed, that's a problem. No, he was talking about the energy, the oil companies that make trillions and pay no taxes.
What about the oil ministry? That's a
Those
fallacy
oil
too.
companies employ people. I hate this vilification of big companies. People work for those companies.
Yes.
That's like vilifying the wealthy.
The energy companies employ people. You can say that about Facebook. That's always the argument that they make, isn't it? And that's I suppose, one of the dominant right-wing tropes. A cynicism about human nature, the requirement for profit as a motive, for ingenuity and even for labour, and that you have to give corporations free rein in order that they create and generate jobs so that society can function. Like that, there isn't an alternative vision that's not economically led, where economics is just a tool for distribution and necessary commerce, not in itself the pinnacle of a culture.
You want to know why our culture is collapsing? It's because of Russell Brand.
So let me know what you think. Do you think that I should go on Fox News? Do you think it would be a good experience? Don't just say yes because you think it would be a laugh to see me put through the gauntlet of being called hurtful and wounding names. Do you think something positive could come from it? Do you think that there are new political ideas emerging, potential new alliances? Do you think that the boundary between left and right is starting to sort of dissipate as centralised politics becomes more and more redundant and irrelevant, that new alliances could formulate, particularly if it was on the basis of decentralisation? That would mean, wouldn't it, that it would be possible to have various ideological pockets that were living sort of independently. So is this the sort of thing that you would like to see me discuss on Fox News, or would you just like me to go on there because you'd like to see me called a scuzzbucket live on air so you could see me sort of suppressing the urge to cry? Most importantly of all, though, the old logs. I think that's the bit that the dog weed on. You probably saw that bit, right?